Okay, so our next contestant is Mercedes George. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay.
So it says here your name is Mercedes George. George Akopoulos, of course, and you are 15 years old. So tell us a little bit why you decided to audition for our show, Mascot Talent.
Well, ever since the womb, I was doing 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16, and I just thought I would always be a mathematician, and I know I'm going to win this.
You think you're going to win this?
Yeah, because look at me.
Well, I like your attitude. Okay, so before we take you back into the audition room, would you mind telling us just a little bit about the problem that you're going to be solving today?
Well, I'm going to be solving a limit by factoring using synthetic substitution.
Oh, well, that sounds great. I cannot wait to see it. So now we can take you back into the audition room, and they will have all the supplies nice and ready for you right there. Come.
Okay. So for this problem, we're going to be finding the limit as x approaches -1 of this equation, which is 2x cubed minus 4x squared minus 5x plus 1 all over x plus 1. The first step that we are going to be needing to do is factoring out the x plus 1, because if we were to plug in -1 for this equation, it would just be 0 over 0, which is the indefinite integral. To factor out the x plus 1 from this equation, we are going to be using synthetic substitution. And we're factoring out an x plus 1 because it is in the denominator, and we need to cancel out the denominator so that there's not a 0. So to do that, we need to find what makes this x plus 1 0, which is -1. Then we're putting that in the corner of our synthetic substitution arena. Then we are going to be taking the top part of this equation and taking all of its coefficients and putting it down in order. For the first coefficient, we are just going to be dropping this one down. Then we're going to be multiplying the -1 by the 2, and that equals -2, so we're going to be putting that there. Then we add these two together, which gets -6. Then we're multiplying -1 by -6, putting that number here, which is 6. Then we're adding those two again, which equals 1. Multiplying these two together to get -1, and then adding those down, which is just 0. This will create the equation that has the x plus 1 factored out, which gives us 2x squared minus 6x plus 1. And then you have the x plus 1 over here, that's factored out, and then over the x plus 1.
So why do we have a new equation?
Well, because we factored out the x plus 1 here from this equation, which gives us this equation right here. And by doing that, because there was an x plus 1 in the denominator, and we factored out an x plus 1, we can cancel out both of those. So now that we've canceled the x plus 1s, we are left with 2x squared minus 6x plus 1. And the next step that we're going to be doing is plugging in the number that x is approaching to find what the limit is going to be. So we plug in -1, again, and that equals 9. So now that we've come up with this 9, that is the number that as x approaches -1 of 2x cubed minus 4x squared minus 5x plus 1 over x plus 1. And so we're going to be writing this down here. So x approaches -1 of 2x cubed minus 4x squared minus 5x plus 1 over x plus 1 equals 9.
Okay, and now to bring back Mercedes George. So how did that go for you? Did you do it well?
Yeah, I think it went really well.
That is great. So your audition tape has been recorded, and so you will most likely hear back from us in a few weeks on your status of Math's Got Talent. Thanks so much for coming in. We wish you the best of luck. Bye. Thank you. Okay, so we chose this procedure because we felt like being able to find limits using synthetic substitution was a good calculus concept to know for the future, and if we ever decide to take more advanced math classes, we felt like it would be beneficial to know how to do this really well.
Okay. What we learned was how to do this process more efficiently and faster, and then also just the subject as a whole, we learned it
And with a better understanding.
with a better understanding. Okay.